This presentation is built upon pure experience from our work at SEB. So it really open up transparent what we have been challenged with and so forth. And I don't know how we do with questions. Do we post them? Yeah, if you have questions, just raise them. I think it's better because I will otherwise forgot what I was talking about if we take it at the end. All right, so let's start. But a little bit before orientation, professional-wise, work-wise, hands up, how many are using AI in a legal way? All right. And how many uses AI in a shadow AI manner? Yeah, I like honestly. I do both. And I assume we have a mix of industry here. So I will talk. This is really, you have to translate some of the terms if I go into regulatory aspect and so forth that may not be relevant for you. But okay, and please just interrupt me if there is anything you want me to clarify, etc., etc. So, and don't get offended by me. These are many of the statements or observations is what we have done back home at SEB. So there are two categories or groups now. It is really and I will mix up managers and leaders, and we can have a semantic discussion about that afterwards. But we who are here to lead and guide the organization to take the next step, that's what I'm talking about, right? So there will be two groups. The one that really are, they sit down and they think, how can we be smart and leverage from artificial intelligence? What is the data? What can be the business value for us going forward? And then we have the other ones which are either super regulated or a little bit anxious. And they will most likely have a challenge to catch up because development here is quite stressful when it comes to what AI can provide us. So we have really gone from I don't know when you experienced AI to be around. Was that the famous November when ChatGPT came around? Was that okay? We started a little bit earlier. I think it's maybe 8, close to 9 years ago. We said that we can no longer think that we are as a fintech or a startup. So we created something completely separate from the mother bank, the parent bank, which we called SEBX. It was actually a Bank Nouveau when it was super secret. But that was really for us. And then we talked about machine learning. We need to understand the data we can use to feed algorithms to do certain projection, right? No one talks about machine learning today. I don't know when that walked out the door, but never mind. So we started with that, and now we see that we have, if I may use the term black box artificial intelligence. Hands up, Copilot, anyone? Yeah, all right, the black box. And then we have the public available artificial intelligence models. Hands up, do you develop your own AI algorithm models? Anyone? Okay, right. So I think that what I mean with that is very, very important to understand the balance. Where do you put your data and who has access to that? That is very, very important. What I'm also looking at here is that just because we have artificial intelligence doesn't mean we are better positioned. It's really for us to understand what can we leverage from using that, right? So it's super important. And I would come back to that as well. and again, when we look down, and there's some really good articles available as well, that don't start to hire a lot of data scientists. That's what I'm saying with this slide, right? You need to understand, okay, so what does our business strategy look like? What is our business model look like? Where are we represented? Are we just local in Sweden, or as we are in close to 20 locations globally? We need to consider what are the customer segments, what are the products, and where can we benefit from artificial intelligence? So the one of pilots, and I think I have Matilda with me here. We actually, a couple of years ago, we fell into the trap that let's just kick off a little bit of a, in brackets, competition to come up with as many artificial intelligence use cases as possible. So we were overwhelmed with use cases, all super good, but they just serve more or less one purpose, right? So that's what happened. And looking at that, some had a little bit better of a strategic fit into where we were heading, other absolutely not. You could see also a tendency where there were quite focused on technology, and other ones the opposite. And we actually had a great progress when it came to our compliance team, because many of the regulatory compliance framework we have are updates. It's either a change of the prefix or the suffix, and there is some delta in between. Feed that and get the result. That's a super good match, for example. And then it comes to, unfortunately, we can read from time to time when some of the big vendors like Google, Microsoft, and so forth have had problem with their AI models to be good and accurate to translate a picture into what it is and so forth. We have had a European banking, there are a couple of examples as well, where the artificial intelligence model has been incorrect, and they used it for grant loan. So it was in the credit process, and it was not accurate. It was not tested enough. So the result was a little bit on favor for the male and a disadvantage for the female. And you can imagine the chaos, right? So you need to be very, very careful where you actually where you head and what are the problems you want to solve. There are tons and tons and tons. I've never seen so many available AI models for developers, etc., etc., etc. And the technology we can read from one day to another. It's released all kind of fantastic capacity, and that is our challenge, really, to have the capacity to drive these models. But it's really to sit down and share experience with management and leadership. This is what it means. We have done this, and we are, in some aspect, quite conservative as a bank, which we need to be. But on the other hand, SEB is also very, I would say, close to leading edge in many aspects. And this is one of the aspects where we really elaborate and test what can be valid for us going forward. So again, don't fall into the trap. Just seek for the most powerful technology, the brightest models. You need to have an adoption and understanding by the leadership. The leadership need to sit down with the team and tell them, what does this mean if you are a developer, application maintenance, if you work with repetitive tasks. How many here perform penetration tests? And a scale 1 to 5, how funny is that? Yeah, exactly. A super good match for applying artificial intelligence. Set the test script, perform the test, analyze, and perform the report. I did not say it was accurate, but it's a smart move going forward. So you need to find this. Where can we be good at applying artificial intelligence? All right. And this may not be relevant for everyone, but hands up here. Do you follow a regulatory framework? Yes, 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 yeah. And we love it, right? Yeah, we need to comply with it. So this is really the, and then what is sensitive? Do you classify your data? Good. And you have traceability of the data from the data source to where you render it in a report or you create new result. It's super, super important. Because and do you also mix internal, external data sources? That might, yeah. And I think what I'm trying to say here is it's very, very important that you are able to have a proper data governance around this. And I think this came with this. That was in 2017, if I'm not incorrect. A BCB is 239, data lineage. You need to have an accuracy and full control over it from data source to the consumption of the data, which could be a report or it could be something else in a process. So that is super important. AI Act, have you read it? Do you plan to read it? That's a good answer. And when you have read it, you need to take a sit down with your team and say, now the next step is to classify our artificial intelligence models based on the AI Act. We did that just to understand what do we have. And this is a little bit complicated. We, as I say, we have the black box, the co-pilot. We have all the embedded artificial intelligence in the operation security tooling. And then we have the proprietary, our own developed artificial intelligence. And then you have the other ones that are frequently used, like ChatGPT and all. You can just imagine all the support for developers and so on. The list is long. That's what I'm trying to say. But it's super important that you look into that. So the better we are at understanding, and we can always, you know, in Swedish, knyta näven i fickan, whatever that is in English, take a deep breath. Compliance is here for a reason, right? That is for us not to fail. So in this case, we need to take that step and also understand what it means for us to continue to be compliant, but we add another dimension, which is the help of our artificial intelligence for us to produce new results. That is what it's all about. With that, we need to understand the risk and how we mitigate and how we actively work with the risk and the risk exposure. For a bank, the most important priority we have is to protect our customers' data and the business assets. If that leaks, it's super, super challenging for us. All right. So a couple of do's. These are very good things to sit down and actively work with. Again, and I always have a perception that every question is relevant, right? So every suggestion is also relevant. But the starting point, I would argue quite a bit, must be from a business aspect. So understand what is the problem we need to solve, what is the business value we are able to create by implementing this. And that can be things that are time-consuming because there's a lot of manual processes. Look at the credit process. It's a repetitive task, right? Look at some of the developer tasks, also code review, for example. Look at the security operations. Really, the challenge in security operation is that the time parameter, the time from detect to protect, right? And the better we are at applying these type of tools which exist and we have actually implemented since many years and continue to improve that, helps us tremendously. Involve cross team. We have a annual, we call that Leaders Day. And so it's all the business division, it's from all the countries, and it's from group technology and so on and so on and so on. And one of the question I picked up was that we need to find a table where business meet with technology, right? So that is one aspect. Another aspect which we need to have a good dialogue as early as possible is to get with legal and compliance, so they understand. And then you can look at also your approval. Do you have complicated approval processes back home? I didn't say we have, but we have some time effort and energy effort approval processes. And they need to be educated. We cannot come with super smart people saying that we will implement this, and then what happened? So you need really to look at what is the culture and awareness, what is the education aspect of this? And that starts all the way from recruiting. A year ago, I sat down with a management team and I said, you know what, I don't think we should hire necessarily anyone who has, all the acronyms for certification in their CV. You should hire a female who is good at security and artificial intelligence. That was exactly what I said. And that is what we have really tried to do now. Look at the ones that are a little bit more open-minded and that can fit into that. And another thing, so imagine that some of us, we sit down and we look at, okay, here is a really good business opportunity for us. We have something in the bank that is called asset liability management. Asset liability management is for us to project the customer development, all right? The credibility, etc., etc., etc. Super important. That might be a smart to take some of these, to have the artificial intelligence to model different scenarios. And then the second question would be, how do we scale that? And how do we ensure it's robust? And how do we ensure it's accurate? So that is also very, very important. That would be my main message, that always consider the larger context and how well can it scale. And also, how do we also apply and set up the team to maintain this over time, right? So who owns the algorithm, who owns the data sources, and who owns what the outcome is, right? I think you agree with that, but it needs to be super crisp. All right. And of course, again, the fourth one here is really to ensure that this is a robust solution. I don't know how much. Do you spend time like I do reading all kind of threat actors, and they are interested of getting inside algorithms and make a little bit. All right, don't Google that because you will be sleepless. But for us, it's super important. I mean, just imagine that we have a self-developed AI model based on, let's say, 2 artificial algorithms, and we have 4 agents on top of that. And then there is some malicious code injected. So the result data will be slightly incorrect over time. Not super obvious in the beginning, but down the road it will be. So you need to be extremely important and to take that into account. Do you perform security tests? If you do not, Google that one. Because what is valuable here is, in a bank we talk about crown jewels. That is our core banking application that handles lending, mortgages, trading, funds, etc., etc. Yes, they need to be protected. But it's actually the path, how does a user or a system access the data? It is the same with an algorithm in an AI model, who has the right to access and change and modify the algorithms. Data and the data sources must be governed and have a clear ownership as well. So here is where, and you don't need to agree, but this is where we took a step back and said, oh, we need to rethink in these aspects here. So have a too narrow, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but it's important. Having a too narrow use case set up, that will not work. It will be brilliant for that purpose and that purpose only, but it needs to be avoided. Second one here is that there is really no connection between the smart solution and really how can we get business value out of that. And then, so you don't get me wrong, it's not only the business division. We have a handful business division in SAP. Look at group technology. The group technology is the machinery where you have the application development, application maintenance, you have the cyber defense, the infrastructure, the whole machinery, which also are super dependent on smartness. So actually one of the first use cases where we took was we don't want to have any malfunction in our data centers. So we put artificial intelligence to balance cooling, airflow, and so on, just to improve the quality if there were any deviation from a normal behavior in the data center. You can have it also, are you worried about insiders? Or you trust everyone? You trust everyone? We need to be worried about, we don't have any unhappy SAP employee, but just assume. So you need to also have and this starts to be a little bit sensitive when you look at the insider and the behavior, right? Typically when it can be a consultant. We love consultants. I didn't say anything negative on that. It might be that a colleague decided to leave SAP and might be interested of printing or exfiltrate data files, etc., etc. That is a super good use case that can scale if you do it in a smart way. And that is the insider and user behavior, right? So what else? Are we doing okay? Yeah, time-wise? Yeah, we're good on that. We're good on everything. So don't ever end up in a situation where you say in a meeting, we have a audit overdue that we need to act on. We never act. We should never, ever end up in that situation. You all agree on that? Because we do smart things to have audits internally, externally, which we pass, right? So we should not be. And therefore, I kindly ask you, when you have some time over, read the AI Act. It's very, very good information. But we should set the frame and the guardrails. These are good use cases. These are good data for us to work with. And we are on the right side of the law, regulation, etc., etc. We are not exposing data in a incorrect way by importing that to the artificial intelligence. AI will suck without good and quality data, right? And it needs to be refreshed, and you need to have a proper governance around that. What is the cadence? What is the frequency for updating? How do you cater for new product, new regulation, new customer segments, etc., etc.? That needs to be a part of that ecosystem and governance, right? Otherwise, it will be slightly outdated, but hard to detect when it became outdated. and I think the two last bullets here. We came to a conclusion a couple of years ago that, it's quite hard to recruit whatever we want to recruit, especially in this area where everyone is soaked for, so to say. So let's build our cybersecurity academy, right? So we build that. We have 8 modules, and it was for architects, developers, managers, etc. And I think that was a quite good concept. But the purpose of that was not really to have a certificate or diploma I have passed. It was really to spread out and increase the culture and awareness. That is what we mean here. Lead by transparency and alignment. Build internal trust. It is super important. The more confident you are, looking now at a mail here, the more confident you are talking to your wife because you know what you're talking about, the more confident you feel. And I think it's the other way around to all the females. The better we are at explaining something. And I learned when my wife asks something, don't ever give a solution on that. Just agree. But it's very, very important. Build internal trust. Be also clear around the changes. We are currently now kicked off a initiative. So I mentioned the Cybersecurity Academy. We have a dedicated team that is overall responsible for the AI adoption in SEB. And then there is now you have to help me, Matilda, with the name of the artificial intelligence HRCOO program we kicked off last week. Never mind. So there's a lot of, this information that spreads out wide that is so important. And then there will be, I can bet, we have COBOL programmer who could not care less about this, and let them not be stressed by this. And we have other ones that will make difference because it's super, super good. If we look at some of the, we have a couple of thousands of developers, where some of them are super active in this space, and some does not need to be equally active. So that is what I'm trying to say. It does not fit for everyone, but all needs to understand what we're going. I quite often say that, and don't get me wrong here now, that banks will disappear, but banking based on artificial intelligence will last, right? So the way we provide our services is through banking, and it's through smartness, data, decision-based, etc. Traditional banks will have challenges to keep up with that. And by that, we look at the market and the shares that our competitors have, and what we have, and what we need to keep, and where we need to grow. So that is also very, very important. 4 areas, cornerstones, or pillars, whatever we call it, I want you to take with you. So again, the value creation or the value alignment. Sit down with the people who really understand. And again, it's not only the business division, it's also the look at the within group technology where I belong. We have the cloud strategy, the IT strategy, the security strategy, etc., etc. The better we are at understanding where are we heading, the better we can understand how can we add value into that. And then also, who will actually run and provide these services? That is also very, very important. So I mentioned this artificial intelligence group we have. They are outmost focusing on potential area where we can grow, but they will not run the solution. That will be done back in the line organization, where we will have stop, do, start to do more of an approach to really gain from that. So the governance and trust here, again, it comes really with the what are the data sources? Do we have a proper understanding of the data we are using? Is it tamper-proof? What is the classification? The C and the I and the A, 1 to 4, besides the availability, which is 1 to 3. That is also very, very important. Most of the black box or general available artificial models will allow you maximum C2 confidential classification 2, max 3 with some exceptions. Everything else you need to be super careful about. So when we talk about projecting customer behavior, etc., etc. We have that in our own data center, our own environments. We do not feel confident to have them. Future might be different. All right. So the third one is organization readiness. How many of you use Zero Trust? Or as I call it, always verify, which is much positive. 5 years ago, we said the entrance for a threat actor is through our credentials, through our PC. So we said we will go passwordless. And today you cannot log on with a password in SEB, which is super good. So we have limit that. So we have biometric login. And with that login, you need to also ensure that it was a proper login to access the application. So it's a very tight session. 80% of the time to do that was through the organization readiness. What does it mean to deliver the services, to maintain the services, to consume the services? 20% was technology. It will be the same, close to the same here as well. The better we are in educating, look at what is the expectation, really be good at explaining it without any acronyms, etc. This is what we did, and this is what we can do, and these are the three most important things that we can benefit and gain from that going forward. And then scale. We have had not many, but we have had several use cases that have been very good, but it's problematic to scale. Did you read any of the publicly available information about SEB and Navida? Oh, you did. You're good. Your other one needs to be better at news. so in our family of companies where we have Saab, Ericsson, etc., we have a agreement. I cannot go into any details, but an agreement with Navida, and that is for us to understand how can we leverage from compute power for us to grow as a bank based on artificial intelligence where it's applicable. All right, so that is the scalable and execution. So really think about these four: value alignment, governance and trust, organization readiness, and scalable execution. So which are the questions that you need to go back and I had a period in my career where I said I must always be answer, right? Yeah, I think we all have, but today I'm a little bit more humble. And I say, we are not measured by answer quick. We are measured by answer correct. So we need to and these are complicated tasks. And don't rush with having solution, having the answers. Really think through that. So again, what is the challenge or the problem that we need to take a look at? Can we make some sort of improvement here? It can be time-consuming, it can be resource-consuming, it can be a little bit, the quality was nearly okay, but it could be increased, etc. So really sit down and resonate. What are we about to take on, right? And have we understood that? Have we also anchored that? So that everyone, and it's not just my perception, well, I understood it. and when we have this artificial intelligence and we have, we done the testing, etc., and then we say, now over the weekend we will go to production. And who really owns the outcome, right? So now we are back in the business division, or we're back in the security operations team, or we're back in the developer community. Who is really responsible for this? And let's say that we will, and this is just a fictive example. Let's say that we take a bet that below this amount, for granting a loan, we will do that purely out of a artificial intelligence evaluation of the person who wants to loan the money. So that will most likely reduce, the credit committees, etc., whatever it might be. But we need to be clear about who owns that outcome and who will maintain that so it's accurate over time. And when does it need to change to be accurate in terms of, as I said earlier, there can be new regulation. Some 5-6 years back, we have the IFRS framework for us to understand as a bank the credit exposure. So if I lend you 100 crowns, I need to immediately also have it as a 100 crown potential credit loss. That is the framework. So we can do a lot of this stuff. Look at do you deal with a lot of text and documents? You do, some, yeah. Also very good to really quality assure that, again, we have it can be a detailed documentation of something, it can be a framework for security operation, etc. A lot of text. That can be fed into an artificial intelligence for you to understand what is new for me to understand, and that should be the delta that you need to perhaps then complement a report or whatever it might be, right? Instead of having all these to be concrete. Regulation, as I said, have either a change in the prefix or the suffix, and you need to understand the delta. So that is one good use case. In security operation, you can look at the how can we be better at using the time from detect a deviating activity to protect us from that. That is also a very good use case. And so on and so on and so on. And what happens if it fails? Test and test and test. And now I'm just talking about the functional test. You need to also look at the non-functional requirements to protect the environment, right? You have logging, monitoring, audit trail, encryption, and so forth. All that needs to be implemented to protect what I have been talking about. The data sources, the identity and access management, who has the right to access this and who has the right to do changes, etc., etc. So that is also very, very important. And when it fails, really learn from why did it fail. The ID could still be good, right? But there might be a bit of a room to involve some other competence or just take a step back that we were maybe a little bit short in conclusion in this area, etc. So that is also extremely important. The last one is not only that we need to adhere to regulatory supervisors, it's also for us to have the dialogue with our counterparties, the customers. We are doing this because of, so, and also have the transparency from we use your data, we look at the transaction, we look at the products, we look at potentially what you are interested of in the next step. At SEB, the long-term relationship with our customers is extremely important in good and bad times. All right. So the closing message here is really, it is not about the technology, it's really about the leadership and the understanding. Feel confident in what you are about to take on. Involve the ones that you can also have to contribute in this. Take a step back, don't push it. Take a step back, take the time to educate and train and start to set up the environments, whatever way you perform it, and really look at how can we best benefit from, the process from recruit a new employee all the way integrate that to the environment, to the teams, and also look at the leadership to grow and expand the knowledge of the teams that are involved. I think that is very, very important. All right, I think that is pretty much it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Does anyone have a question for Ulf?
Thank you so much, Ulf. I think it's really interesting to see what's happening from this side from fintech. I'm very far from fintech and I worked in it, so I'm looking from a completely different thing. But one thing I probably wanted to a bit amplify, it was on some of your slides, it's about the distance between the tech teams and the business.
Yeah.
I think this is, in some organizations, it could be pretty much a trap, of the tech teams not understanding their impact on the business. And at least in many other areas, in the last maybe a couple of decades, there is much more fusion between the tech teams and the business teams. There is no longer a specific tech team. This is a product team who is really understanding what business problem they are solving and really talking to their stakeholders basically on an absolutely constant level, and they are the same business developers, it's just another tool. And even if there was relevant a few years ago, just purely in the age of normal software engineering, I think now with the completely different pace and completely different impact of machine learning and deep learning and other AI techniques, this is even more important to keep this connection because the consequences of the decisions are completely a different scale.
Yeah, I fully agree, and we came to a very much spot on what you said. So we have a committee which we call the SPOC. So the SPOC is what technology meet the business, where we look at different roadmaps, different initiatives, and also this part is there. So I think that is a very, very, very relevant observation and reflection, and absolutely. All right. Oh, now you have lunch, therefore you don't ask questions. Oh, all right.
All right, thank you so much, Ulf.
Thanks.